Hey, it's Bailey Wiki. This is the March 2025 Design With Me series where I build Foundry scenes using free modules and tools. All assets are Bailey Wiki assets available with a 1-month Patreon sub, but these tools work with any creator's assets. So unless I say otherwise, all modules are free. Let's dive into the next map.
Okay, now we're going to make another scene here. This one we're going to use again, the diorama template, just to show you guys it's really easy to start with these things. We'll copy it and we'll go activate it. And now we'll start to see what we want to do here. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to apply this adjustment filter. You can see it already desaturated it a bit. And once we have it selected, I'm going to edit it with that special TeamFX edit thing. And we're going to play around with decreasing the saturation more, because what I want to do is see if I can make this part of a snowy scene. So we're going to increase the gamma, which increases the brightness generally without washing it out. Add a little contrast, and just going to keep playing around with some of these values. Yeah, until we feel like it's kind of a snowy color. And I feel like this works pretty good. So we'll go into our diorama tiles. We'll find our snowy ones. And let's grab the forest tile or add it to the brush so we can add a few of these things. And we'll spam it around the place a bit. Maybe not just forest. Let's go into let's reset our brush and we'll put some of these clearings in here. And I don't know, something else, maybe this mountain one here, a little bit more mountainous terrain. And you see we're just kind of putting these around. We'll change these here in just a moment. And we'll grab this one and move it up in front of everything else because I like that kind of central ruin there. And I'm going to drop the saturation on these as well. There's a lot of brown in those, and I'm just going to drop them down a bit so it looks a little bit more snowy. Okay, now we can start randomizing things. We're going to grab out our little randomizer here. That's easy to work with. And let's change the size of some of these. I'm just using the brackets and quick scale to make these just bigger or smaller. All right, so we've kind of got some terrains kind of laid out. Let's deactivate that middle one because I want to keep it. Everything else I want to randomize. So I've deactivated the middle one, and then otherwise I'm just randomizing everything else. And I'm just rolling the dice, just like I'm pulling a lever of a slot machine, looking for some combination that I want to start with. This has a lot of open spaces, good for a battle. I'm just going to double click this one on the top and see as I rotate through options what it gives me. See if it gives me some inspiration here. You can see some of these have paths carved through them, which is really great. Maybe you have a road leading in. I like that road here. Let's put that in the bottom. Maybe that's the road into the scene. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good. I've got a nice mix of trees and rocks and clearings. Okay, now we are just placing some trees. So I just went into the nature, I went into snow, and I'm pulling out some trees, and I'm just making it so their scale is randomized. And I'm going to have a drop shadow built into them. So if I just save that drop shadow there, it just helps my trees kind of stand up off the environment. And I'm using these just to kind of help blend the environments together. Again, I hacked that middle one to be snowy, and so I'm just giving it some cover to help kind of merge everything together. And I want to find some snowy boulders. So let's look within the snowy category for boulders. We'll keep that drop shadow applied. And I'm going to place these around. I'm holding shift so that it doesn't snap to grid. I'm just thinking of like, where could these boulders go to either create choke points or whatever. I'm going to adjust my filters here just a little bit. I'm going to get rid of that little extra blue hue. I think that's fine. So now I have this idea that I want that entrance to be pretty like ominous. And so I'm going to take the smoke that kind of blows out straight, and I'm going to kind of have it coming out of the cave. And make it nice and big so it feels like it's just really billowing out of the cave. And I kind of love that. Who wants to go into a cave, but who wants to go into a cave that's got just this like billowing frost coming out of it. I'm going to desaturate, I'm going to make its opacity quite a bit less, just so it's not overpowering. I really want it to feel like it's just like cold coming out. And then what I'll do is here also is I'll add a light. I want that to be really visible even when the lights are down. And so I'll add a light here and give it a color. And I don't even think I'm going to animate it. Let's bring up its attenuation just so it's softer around the edges. Kind of play with its luminosity here. This will really matter more when we turn the lights down, but I'm just kind of getting an idea of how it affects the artwork around it, including that animated tile. And we may make some changes here later, but this feels like a good place to start. Let's drop its luminosity just a bit. And you see how it like lights up the walls around it, lights up that artwork. I really want to keep that, but I don't want it to light up everything above the ground. So I'm going to just draw walls here, and these walls, all they're going to do is just control the light. They're going to block the light from shining up above because I really want those walls to be lit up, but nothing else. Maybe it's just moonlight when it's darker, but I think it makes a good effect. So we'll get rid of everything except for light restriction. Just using mass edit, that's a Shift E function there. All right. Let's bring up our category browser again. This time I'm just going to show you, you can just type in camp and you can see camp stuff based on keyword, right? So unless I put a hashtag in front of it, it won't look up by anything else. Hashtag will look up uh, tags. Here I've just got a campsite that's got some pieces already attached to it, so I just grabbed that. We'll make this turn on only at night. And we'll right click it until we find something to be interesting that we like. There's a few pieces in that campfire that randomize. So as you right click it, it randomizes all the components and keeps giving you different combinations of options. Okay, I like these uh, tents for this. Notice how big that tent is. We're going to redo our brush here so that it gets to the right dimensions. All right, so let's put this around. I'm looking at the doorways and I'm just making sure those doorways kind of line up at the edge of a square for the most part, although I think I'll put this one at an angle. It's larger, it's easier to get into, even if it's not on a square. And that's pretty good. I am going to put that back, Shift D to put it back into the right mode, and then I'm going to mirror it. So I mirrored it by pressing V or vertical. You can also press H, just because I want the light all to agree. So I just wanted the light on the top side of it rather than the bottom. And let's see what else might go in this little camp. Maybe some like weapon racks or something. There's going to be some kind of clutter around here. So let's look up rack. And here we've got this weapon rack as a brush. So we'll pull that in. We'll add a short drop, or tall drop shadow to it. It's fine also. And we'll scale it down a little bit so it kind of makes sense for stuff around it. And we'll just put some weapon racks in. Maybe that's part of the story, maybe it's not. And we'll look up clutter and prefab just because I happen to know these come with it. I right click that to delete the weapon racks from the brush. And now it's just kind of randomly going through these storage prefabs that just come with lots of crates and barrels and stuff like that, just to make kind of easy clutter for your scene. And yeah, we've got like pretty good little campsite. Lots of tactical opportunity for your players to come in at different areas and try to do stuff. Now I'm just going to draw some terrain walls just because I want players to not see the whole map necessarily when they first enter it. Because, I've got these like interesting sections here, so maybe I want to include them slightly from players being able to see. And so terrain walls are pretty effective for that. It just kind of forces your players to go through, certain routes that you want them to go through. And we'll keep it pretty simple. You can always come in here and adjust things later as you're testing your map. And we'll do the same thing here. Just kind of following the artwork roughly. Depends on how exact you like to be with your maps. But I think just leaving it organic, not building too many walls, not trying to follow it meticulously. You certainly can, but I prefer this method. And let's drop our test player in and see what we're working with here. So I want these tents to not block sight just by default. So what we're going to do here is a little trick. We're going to use the reverse proximity. I think it's reverse. I always have to test this. And then proximity threshold attenuation. And what I'm doing here is saying, look, unless I'm within 10 feet of the wall, I don't want it to work. So you can see the artwork itself already covers what's underneath it. So I'd rather just get closer and then it blocks my sight. Otherwise, it doesn't need to as I'm navigating around the map. And now I want to make these a little bit bigger. So I select them both and then I press Shift D to put it in preview mode and I scale them up so that it just blankets the map in the audio that I want. And let's go ahead and drop our lights and see how this thing looks at night. Ooh, yes, that's good. That's awesome. Right. I love this effect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that animated tile and I'm going to make it an overhead tile because and I make it so it doesn't occlude. I want it to just, affect the players underneath it, make it look like they're standing in this, in this gas that's pouring out of there. And you add some, you know, dramatic music here, scary music. I think you've got a pretty dang good map. Now maybe players came out of that, maybe they crawled out of that and they find this encampment outside. Maybe they're trying to go into it. These are all tiles. You can delete that camp, right? You don't have to have a camp at all. Of course, I want to set my audio for night to something different, or at least I want to add something else to it. And so let's add a wind sound. And we'll have it always on. And we'll just kind of tuck it in here so that there's this sound of this fog that's coming out of it. Shrink it down, have it get louder as players get closer to it. It's feeling pretty good. And you can see we're just a few minutes in and we've got a pretty good map. Now, when you go to play this map, you can use Media Optimizer by Ripper to actually flatten all of these tiles, at least the ones underfoot, to a single efficient WebP image. So if you have players that you don't know what kind of machines they're running and you want to make sure this is running at top performance, just use Media Optimizer when you're all done with everything, and you can lock in all these things as one efficient map for yourselves. Snowy Cave Entrance will give the name, and I think we're done with this one.
So that's it for this map. Grab these assets on my Patreon, link in the description if you want to support the channel as well. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, hit the bell for updates, and drop a like or a comment. Your questions actually help the community and the algorithm. Thanks for watching and have fun making your maps.